Hi, my name is Chase Arnett, and I'm the founder of the Hudson Oven, a small cottage industry bakery here in the Hudson Valley. We're going to be building a clay oven this fall, and we're pretty excited about it. What do you need to build a clay oven? Take a guess. Clay, correct, and actually lots of sand, mostly sand. Think of clay as the binding agent between sand particles when you're building bricks. Yes, we are going to be making our own bricks, which is why we're standing on an old brick making property. So yeah, I'm going to take you around the property, show you the different pockets of, geographical resources that we're going to use to pile together into a pretty solid building block, the traditional red brick. There's tons of old ones laying around here, that we could reuse, but we're gonna make our own from scratch and just do it the old way, just sort of as a practice, see how people used to do things, and really earn the delicious bread that we're going to get out of the oven in the end. So, all right, let's move on to the next building material, sand. So here we are with almost full 5-gallon buckets of sand, Hudson River sand. And this is all the material we were able to sift out through this pretty large hardware cloth mesh. So you can see we have our little devil seeds in here. You wouldn't want to be stepping on those, that's for sure. Bits of glass, things like that. So we're just trying to get out all the larger pieces of wood and brick and stone and slag and things like that. So now we have a pretty good blend of sand. We're going to haul it back up to the tarp. Gets pretty real how heavy these materials are when you're hauling 5-gallon pails of them around the woods and up shorelines. It kind of makes you understand why they were so dependent on having brickyards right on the Hudson. That way they didn't really have to manually move, or even with machinery, the amount of carbon fuel that it would take to fire these trains and all other modes of transport. It's kind of crazy. But I see why they would just use the natural tidal flow of the Hudson to move these materials around. Welcome to the clay deposit. Below my feet, about 1.5 feet down, is a solid bed of clay. If you look behind me, and actually even behind the camera, there's about a 10 to 15 foot stone wall holding back the earth. This area that I'm standing in is where they used to mine the clay from. And that was basically just to keep the rest of the earth from collapsing in on the quarry operation. So I'm going to take advantage of this little stream bed here, thankfully, that's running, and it's doing the job of washing away all of the overburden I was just talking about. And I'll dig down into some clay here and let you get a look at it. So, all these things around me, I mean, even the size of the trees are basically a sign of how long it's been since this brick making operation was going on. I mean, it's pretty cool that right here in Westchester County, you can find clay that's so pure. And I mean, it really, if you think about it, I read somewhere that it's 40 to 50 billion bricks were imported into Manhattan to build the city that we know now, or at least part of it. Now they're using concrete, a little more modern building materials. But it was a great fire-safe material to build with. And all of that material, that sheer volume, that mass, had to come from somewhere, and it came from the Hudson Valley. So this little piece of land is one of the places that, who knows where the bricks ended up, but one of the places that, geological material was mined out of the ground, turned into bricks using a lot of manual labor, and then laid into buildings using additional manual labor. Every one of those 50 to 60 billion bricks I just mentioned were laid by hand. So yeah, this is our clay that we're going to be working with, and we're going to head over and start blending it into the sand mixture, about a 70-30 sand to clay. And we'll start packing some bricks, and we'll show you how we do that. All right, so now we're just gonna start jumping around on it and folding it over using the tarp and see if we can get it into a nice cohesive mass. We also might need to add a little bit of water here or there to mix into it, just so it can mix together better. So we're about 30 minutes into mixing / dancing, and the material's starting to get where we need it to be. We added about probably a gallon or 2 gallons of water just to loosen it up a little bit, and it really made a difference in mixing it properly. So we're just going to keep folding back and forth till it's really all cohesive, and then we can start making some bricks. So using the brick molds that they're made out of oak, you want to soak them for 20 to 30 minutes before you use them. That way they're hydrated from all the way through their core, and they hydrate the clay that you put in there from the inside out. Basically it just makes it so it doesn't stick. It's kind of like oiling a bread pan maybe before you put dough into it to bake, so that way it comes out of the bread pan once it's done. So yeah, you have your basically lubricated brick molds. You set them on the table and you throw all your clay in there. The ideal situation would be that you had the exact right amount of clay for each one, but of course, just like scaling out your massive dough to make a certain quantity of bread, you just go by feel, and eventually you start to get better and better at it. So the idea is you throw it into the brick mold, it fills all the corners, you sort of pack it in with your hands and fingers and make sure that there's no breaks or there's no air pockets. Nice firm pack, and then you can, with one quick movement, you don't want to be too soft or too firm, but just enough to get that brick moving out of the mold. It can slide out and sit and rest on the table without sort of landing on the surface too abruptly and deforming the brick. So just kind of similar to having dough hands, you want to be assertive enough that you can get the brick out of the mold, but not too assertive to the point that you're maybe degassing the dough or it's sticking to your hands too much. So just like anything, it comes with technique, and you develop that over time and just by getting the reps in. All right, so now that you've seen how we turn clay that we dig out of the ground right here in Westchester into bricks, we'll dive into building a stone pedestal, which is what the oven will end up sitting on. And we're also going to talk about insulation in the next step, which is very important when you're talking about a bread oven. The whole point of these big hunky bricks are that they can absorb and retain heat and redirect that heat back into the bake chamber. The bake chamber is also where you're firing and heating this masonry from. So yeah, we'll dive into insulation. We'll talk about era accurate to the colonial era, and we'll talk about modern ones as well. And we might end up using even a blend of those two materials in our final oven, just for the aesthetic of the old with the function of the new. Nothing better than that. So until next time, this is Chase Harnett at the Hudson Oven signing off. All right, I'll see you in the next video.